The tool of the option. Perhaps the most powerful tool in the real estate toolbox. I'll also say I think it's one of the most underutilized tools. The option. The right to buy real estate. It's a right to buy real estate. And the option gets very clear on three things. One, what real estate are we talking about, right? We're going to have to identify that. That's for sure. And it's going to have a legal description there. But then the first thing we're going to have to identify is our price and or terms to be able to purchase that real estate. Now, let's say that we have a right to buy that real estate 5 years from now. It's pretty hard sometimes to say exactly what price we're going to agree on today for a property we might buy 5 years from now. Now, it's possible we might just say, hey, I have the right to buy this for $200,000 5 years from now. We could say price that simply. But we could also write a formula that says here's how the price is going to be determined during our window of opportunity. We can say that it's going to have 3 different appraisals. We're going to blend the 3, average the 3, and that's the price. We could come up with a lot of different ways of coming up with the price and or terms. But if you name an actual price, which is the first component of the option, logic would tell you that coming up with a price that is close to or even under the true value of that property today would be a good thing. Because the assumption is that over time, the property might get more valuable. One thing we know for sure is we've got to come up with price and or terms. Now, what does the and or terms mean? I might say the price is $200,000. My right to buy this property is $200,000. But I can also go on and say that when and if I exercise my option to purchase, here are the terms of how that $200,000 is going to be delivered. Here are the terms that will deliver that $200,000 in some form. So it could be here's $200,000 all cash, or here's $200,000 through this agreement. Price and or terms, the first component of the option. The second component is this window. When does the door of opportunity open, and when does it close to purchase this property for $200,000? This is a date that the window opens and a date when it's closed. That date can also be a formula. 30 days following X, 6 months following X. Whenever this happens, that constitutes the window being open. Whenever this happens, that constitutes the window being closed. Those, of course, will become known as dates, but really they're triggered by events, realities. For example, upon the death of one person in a married couple, the window of your opportunity opens. And that window stays open for 2 years from that day forward, and then it closes. You see how an event triggers the opening of the window and a date closes it following the event of a window. Price is the first term of the option. The second is identifying the window of opportunity. The third component of the option is consideration. What am I giving this property owner that is good and valuable? What am I giving them in exchange for this right to purchase this property at a certain price at a certain point in the future. What am I giving them? Cash, prizes, services, good and valuable consideration. What am I giving them? Now, the option is a recorded document. It's very simply filled out. It has the address of the subject property, the legal description of the subject property, and it's recorded to become a lien and an encumbrance on that particular property. It sends a message through title to the world that you have a right to buy this property and that you fulfilled a consideration requirement, the price is set, the window is set. Now, the language of the option, what discovery do we need to have happened that would make us think of this tool? And for me, it's your own proactivity with a development opportunity that you see. That can be one thing where you are actually hunting development opportunities. Let's take a raw piece of land that you want to build houses on. Well, what a perfect presentation to say, I would like to give you some money to secure an option to buy this property. Then during all of your entitlement efforts, you're not paying debt service on the property, you're not paying taxes, you're not paying insurance. And again, depending on how that feasibility development process goes, you may choose not to buy the property. You run into snags of right-of-ways, you run into snags of sensitive areas, you run into snags of neighbors not liking what you're doing. Depending on what you find out in that process, you may choose not to exercise your option. And of course, when you do that, any consideration you gave up front becomes non-refundable. You've paid for the right, you've decided to not exercise the right. But if you do move forward with that development, the option becomes a great tool because it may take you 2 or 3 years to get entitlements. It may take you a long time to get everything positioned to start the development itself, to actually fulfill the criteria of the plat. You might have a preliminary plat approval, but now here comes the real money, putting in all the undergrounds, the roads, the sewers, the gutters, the right? And so, but you didn't at least have to cover carrying costs on a raw piece of land with taxes, with insurance during that feasibility time. So one is your own proactivity. This tool is used a lot by developers, builders. It's also used when someone is attempting an assemblage, right? When they're trying to connect several properties together, they don't want to buy this one, and this one, and then get a no-go on the one in the middle, right? Because now the ones they've already purchased don't mean anything because the key piece is out, right? And so what happens is that in assemblage efforts, options are created to buy these properties, and you would then decide to exercise those options once you have all of the assemblage together and they're all through feasibility. Now on the seller side, so here's the proactive buyer's side, how you might use the option. But on the seller's side, what's the language that triggers you to think option? And to me, it's always been the language that says, I want to sell, but not right now. I want to sell at some point, but not right now. You see that this is the perfect scenario to talk about you becoming the owner at some point in the future. Another language trigger is that I'm running into someone who needs a relatively small amount of cash right now for some reason and doesn't know how to get their hands on it. It might be their car broke down, they need $5,000 for an engine or something. And they're just completely beside themselves in stress, but here they have this home that already has a lot of equity in it, but They don't have a job. They can't see how they can pull out some equity, right? You may have a discussion with them to tell me about your future plans for your home. Because what I'm willing to do is I'm willing to give you $5,000 so that you could fix your car and get on with your life in exchange for a right to purchase your home at some point in the future. Would you like to have that discussion? And some people say, well, gosh, I'm going to sell my home in 5 years anyway, and I need the money today, and that kills two birds with one stone. One, I get the money to fix my car, and two, I already know who's going to buy my house in the future. That's a win-win. Let's do it. So those are the two main verbal triggers that as you're interviewing people, as you're aware, as you're going through life, when you hear somebody needing cash, if they own real estate, you may think about giving them the cash for the option, right? Or what they need, you may have, right? Let's say that their car completely exploded and they needed a new car. Well, maybe you have a car that's perfectly acceptable. What if I give you this car in exchange for the right to buy your property in the future, right? So cash and or prizes from the seller's side, that's one trigger for sure. The other is simply, I want to sell, but not yet. My question is, well, when are you planning to sell? Well, once I retire, we don't need this home anymore. I'll be selling the home and doing this. What's the obvious next question? Well, when are you going to retire? Oh, it's 6 years from now. Excellent. Could I give you some consideration today for the right to purchase your home 6 years from now? Now, I want you to think about these three sliding negotiations in the option, right? Price and or terms, right? And I want you to think about what this property is worth today. Obviously, if you can lock into a price at or below today's value, that would be a good thing, right? Consideration, little bit, a lot. Well, you want to as far to the little bit side as you can get. The smallest amount of money, cash and prizes you can give to control a large asset, the better. That's optimum leverage, correct? And then in terms of window, as long as that window extends, the better, especially at a fixed price and terms. If I can agree on a fixed price and terms today, and I have a 10-year window to buy that property, that's a powerful, powerful option, right? You see how that's much more powerful than if I have a right to buy this property for a market value today, but my option is only good for a year from now. You see, that's a very, very different option than if it was 10 years from now. Okay, so these sliding scales, right? Price closer to today's values or less, consideration as little as possible, window as long as possible. Those are the sliding scales in the option. This tool locks up a property so that you can drive by it and say, I own that, just not yet. What a tool. I want you to take good notes on this video of the option. This combined with the hard copy of what we're providing you should give you everything you need to have eyes and ears to see this opportunity on the streets. And as always, with any questions that you have as you're in motion with this tool, make sure you run us down. Good luck with the option.